Okay, as everybody knows, there is a new adventure incoming. It is the League of Explorers. 45 new cards if I'm right, and I'm gonna do a review of all the cards. The first new card that is coming, or one of the first cards that comes out, is the Unearthed Raptor. This is actually an interesting card. I mean, this is for sure an like the 3 mana slot from Rogue. You have to compare it with the SI7. And I like this design of the card. I mean, in 3 mana 3/4, it has like the spider tank stats. So it is already from himself. The stats are already decent. It doesn't even need to be a good battle cry to already be decent. And then the battle cry is choose a friendly minion, gain a copy of its Deathrattle effect. So what I'm thinking now, you want to play this. If you want to play it on turn 3, you need to have like a turn 2 Deathrattle minion. There are some good Deathrattle minions, like you have of course the Rubian Egg, you have Haunted Creeper, you have Telnos for Rogue. But, I mean, and Telnos is not gonna survive at turn 2 normally. And an Egg and Creeper are not really cards you want to play in a Rogue. And, I mean, I really like the card. Like, this is it's really good on Sylvanas or something, maybe later in the game, but... I think it's an okay card just because even if it doesn't work, even if you don't get the Deathrattle off, it's still in 3 mana 3/4. And 4 health on a 3 mana creature is really big. So I can see this card being okay, I can see this card being playable. And you don't really have to change your deck too much. Like, you want to play some Deathrattle minions, but you don't have to overchange your deck to make this card working. This card will already be decent if there are not that many Deathrattle effects in the deck. So, yeah, I think this card is okay. I'm not sure if it can get in spot. Like, if you want a spot in a deck, there has to get something out. It's not like, oh, we put this card in and because it's decent. Decent is not good enough for Ranked. For Ranked, you want only good cards. You don't want decent cards. And I see this card being decent, but... I don't know if it can make the step to being a playable card in Constructed. Within Shredder it's good. I mean, I feel like he is just... you cannot really go wrong with this card. It is a card that... If it's gonna work, it's insane. If it doesn't work, yeah, that sucks. But it's still in 3 mana 3/4. So yeah, I'm actually in... I actually like this card somehow. He is close to he might be getting close to get into the Rogue deck. So it's still gonna be hard. I mean, you have to put something other. You have to put another card out. So, but yeah, I like the design of the card. What? Tomb Billiger, 4 mana, 5/4. So the first thing I see is already the 5/4 stats, and 5/4 is way worse than 4/5. The stats of this card are not good from himself. If you compare it to like the Evil Heckler, it's also in 4 mana 5/4. You never see it being played. It just trades terribly in Pilot Shredder. You don't want a card with only 4 health. 4 health is pretty easy to kill. And Deathrattle, add a coin to your hand. I mean, it's not a Deathrattle that I consider being super good. And, I mean, for Rogue it makes some sense, but... I cannot see this card being super good at all. I mean, I like... yeah, you have... Like, teachers are so powerful in Rogue. Shredder is... People in Rogue are not even playing always 2 Shredders. Because they have already so much good cards, so... yeah, I don't think this card is gonna make it. I mean, it's not a bad card. It's okay. You can pick it up in Arena and you will probably be happy for a 4-drop. But, I mean, a Yeti is probably better still. And the Evil Heckler might be even better. And Shredder is by far better. So, yeah, I don't put much faith into this card, actually. 6 mana. The Wobbling Runt. 6 mana, 2/6. 6 Deathrattle summon 3/2/2 runs. That's actually a pretty okay card, but it's... I compared it a bit with the high main because it gives you, instead of 2/2/2s, you get 3/2/2s. And the stats of this card are in general a bit worse. But 6 mana 2/6 is pretty weak in general. There's also the risk that this card like gets stolen by Cabal or something like that. I think the cost is just a bit too much. If I compare it to the Pilot Sky Golem, that is also a neutral, 6 mana 6/4, get him 4 drop. Then I just see the Pilot Sky Golem being better. You pay the same cost, you have better neutral stats, and instead of 3/2/2s, you get average and 4/4, maybe 4/3/5 shall be average. Yeah, I mean this design is super cool. It's slow. It doesn't give much pressure on board. You play this, or your opponent plays Boom, and you are crying. Super good arena card, probably. Super good arena card. This is like a design made for arena, by the way. I like the card. I really like the card. It's gonna be an okay card, but yeah, I don't think you're gonna see it. I cannot think of a deck where you will see it in Ranked. But yeah, super cool design. I think it's like close to being almost as good as Pilot Sky Golem, but Pilot Sky Golem will be more popular still. Tunnel Truck! 1 mana, 1/3. When you overload, gain 1 attack per locked mana crystal. So I actually thought already a bit of this card, and I really like that you finally can do something positive with your overload. All the things with your overload are always negative. But the problem is you don't really want to overload yourself much in the early game. The overload turns hurt you the most in the early game. And there is not even a good 2-drop or something at 2 mana where overload is good. Like the only thing where I can feel is the Totem Golem. Like this card into a Totem Golem, you just have a 2/3 into and 3/4. Like the dream of that is super good. But I mean, why would you really play this over a Zombie Chow? That is more consistent, and you don't have to overload yourself. Like Shaman is not a card, not a class that is gonna race you. So I mean, I'm really happy that I see some positive cards from an overload. But I think it's just gonna be a bit too weak, a bit too not inconsistent. There are just not many good overload cards in the early game. And I don't see the benefit of playing this card over a Zombie Chow, for example. What is like played once in mid-range Shamans nowadays, I guess. You can also coin Veiled Spirits, that's true, but it's gonna be an I mean, it's not gonna be an awful card. It's probably in some way when you play with a lot of the cards, like if you play with Feral Spirits, if you play with Totem Golem, if you have like a Lightning Bolt maybe in a deck that you can use as a removal at turn 1, it might be okay-ish, but I don't really get the benefit yet. I think the card is gonna work out decently, but the benefit is just not big enough to play it probably. Four mana, Tomp Spider. 3/3 stats, Battlecry, discover a beast. Discover is a new mechanic. For the people that didn't know about Discover yet, Discover means you get 3 cards and you can choose the card that you want out of the 3 cards. So you basically you can get, most likely you just get a pretty good beast out of it, whatever you like the most. It's like a tracking. You same as tracking, but for tracking you paid 1 mana. Now you don't pay the 1 mana. Yeah, now you just see 3 cards and you choose the best one that you want out of it. But the only thing that's really important, the discover is not from your deck, so it doesn't mill your deck or something. It's just 3 new cards, random cards, and you choose the best one. 4 mana 3/3. Discover, like it. it's the problem with Discover is that Discover is super slow. If you compare it with the Pilot Sky Goal or with the Shredder, that is like 4 mana 4/3, has already better stats. There comes a 2-drop out of it. With this card, you have the battle cry of Discover, and that means a card comes in your hand. It doesn't come on the board. So this card is already super slow from his stats. I think this card is not gonna make it because it's just way too slow. You don't want to pay 4 mana for a 3/3 and then get a card draw. Yeah, for 5 mana you get an Ezra Drake, and then you get a card out of your deck. And the cards out of your deck should be better than Discover. Otherwise you should not play them in your deck, of course. So I think this card is going to be just too slow. I like the Discover mechanic, but this Discover mechanic is not good enough to make it. I mean, you have to make it in a Beast deck. Is it going to be good in the Beast Roots? Is it going to be good in Beast Hunter? I cannot see the effect that it is a Beast being super good. It's... if you play it in a Hunter, I mean, it kind of has an effect of a Web Spinner. But I mean, it's you pay so much for 4 mana for the Discover. Like the dream is to, with Discover, the dream is to get like play this card and you get a next drop. So you get like a 5 or a 6 drop that you can play right afterwards. So yeah, if you play this and you can get an high main and you coin high main next turn, yeah, of course it might be super good. It's gonna be maybe good in the heavy control decks, but I think it's just gonna be too slow. I cannot see it. I cannot see it being working that well. What's this? Summoning Stone. When you cast a spell, summon a random minion at the same cost. Useless stone. Yeah, nice. Nice card. I mean, I like I like the design somehow. I mean, every spell is gonna be insane, but how likely is it that a 5 mana 0/6 is gonna survive it? This card will never survive, guys. And 5 mana average is 5/6, 4/6, 5/5, something like that. How the hell is this card gonna survive on board? Like, you have to be insanely ahead. You play this useless stone, and then you need to have like some good spells, and then you get a lot of minions. I mean, in the perfect world, this card might work. But out of 99 of the 100 cases, this card is going to be super hard to work off. Like, if you play this card and you play a 5 mana spell, it's still not worth it. Because you get an... then it gets kind of close. But you play this, and then you need another turn to cast that spell. And then this useless stone has to survive also. Nah. This guy... I mean, I hope this card can make it. I like the design, but... Okay, I don't have trust in this card, guys. I don't have really much trust in this card. Oh, what is going on? Why is... Rumbling Elemental. After you play a Battlecry minion, deal 2 damage to a random enemy. After you play a Battlecry minion, deal 2 damage to a random enemy. 4 mana 2/6. Stats wise, defensive shaman card. Stats wise, a bit under average, but not super bad. And then after you play it, so it has no effect from himself. It is an effect that you have to play another card, and then this card can work. And doing that with a Battlecry is super hard. There are not many good Battlecries in Shaman, right? Is there even a... You have the Fire Elemental. You have the Ezra Drake. So you play this. I think the best case thing is you play this and then you play Ezra Drake at 5 drop. So what is gonna happen? You play this 4 mana, does nothing aboard, is in 2/6. Not bad, but not good. And you play Ezra Drake afterwards. And then, boom, you have 2 random damage. Woohoo. 2 random damage. It can be the face, it can be an useless minion, it can be an... I mean, I really hate the deal 2 random... And also deal 2 random damage is not even that much better than dealing 1 random damage to 1 enemy. I mean, it's... I mean, there are no cheap battle cries, so you play this card with the mind thinking of we just gonna play Boo, we're gonna play Ezra Drake, or we're gonna play Boom, or we're gonna play Fire Elemental afterwards. I mean, 2 damage is not to a random enemy. You just cannot control it yourself. Like, you really rely on your opponent having a good board where you can hit well. And the other problem is even that... The biggest problem might even be that there are just no cheap battle cries. So, you really have to play this as a 4-drop. And then you go for a 5-drop. But why would you play this over a Fire Guide Destroyer that will have way better stats? Like, it has also 6 health, but the attack is always way stronger. Like, it is between 4 and 7. And for the not getting any attack on this card, like having 2 attack, the benefit that you get is you might deal 2 random damage if you can play a Battlecry minion afterwards. This card's not gonna be good enough. This card's not gonna be good enough. What is going on with my... Okay, next card. Sacred Trail. When your opponent has at least 3 minions and place another, destroy it. Huh, that's a weird secret. When your opponent has at least 3 minions and place another. So you expect... So your opponent basically just has to have 4 minions on board. You destroy the 4th minion. Ah, come on, what is it for a bullcrap card? Whenever your opponent has at least 3 minions... I mean, now everybody knows this card is out. Everybody's always gonna play around it. Like, it's gonna take 2 days. The first 2 days, but nobody noticed this card, and then you might get surprised. But after that, you just know, you're just gonna see, oh, it's not this secret, oh, it's not this secret, oh, it has to be in Secret Trail, and nobody will ever play in 4th minion. And with 3 minions, you are already in an insanely good spot. Yeah, this card is not gonna make it. I mean, it's not a secret you wanna, like, it can make the Christmas tree more fancy, but with the, like, maybe with the Mysterious Challenger, oh, whatever, he's free anyways, then you can play him. But you don't want to pay 1 mana for this card. I think this card will always just stick here as a secret, will never pop out. Yeah, this card, it will just never pop out. It's just a terrible secret, actually. Like, with the Mysterious Challenger, you have some decent way that it might work, but people gonna play around it. People just will play around it really well. So now this is a crap card. Okay, Reno Jackson, and this card I know already, and this card is, holy shit, this card is cool. This card is cool. I have already some really cool ideas with this card. Legendary 6 mana 4/6. So if you look at the stats, we always start with the stats. I always evaluate the stats first, because then you can read the text of the card always better. We have a 6 mana 4/6. So if we compare it to the stats, you pay 1 mana more. An average 5-drop has 4/6. It's like a Druid of the Claw into Taunt, or, well, there's a Spectral Knight, but 5 mana 4/6, it's okay. That's really okay. And we pay 1 mana more here for this card. The Battlecry. If your deck contains no more than 1 of any card, so that means you have just 1 of each cards left in your deck, fully health your hero. I mean, I love this card somehow. This card can just destroy aggro by himself. You don't have to play heal bots maybe anymore. If you can play this deck, if you can manage to make a deck that doesn't run too many copies, and there are some classes where that is possible. One class where it might be possible is Paladin. Like Paladin can play with, let's play one Belcher, let's play one Quartermaster, let's play an Harrison or something, let's play one Sylvanas, let's play, well, you can only play one Boom. Let's play one Tyrion. We can play, maybe you only play one Eldar, one Knife Juggler, but like with Paladin the list is already really big. So, and Paladin always had the problem of not getting the heal early. So for Paladin this card might be work really insane. It doesn't have to play Lay of Hands anymore. It doesn't have to play Healbot anymore. So for Paladin this card might work. And one deck I'm also really thinking of myself is Freeze Mage actually. And this card is gonna be good for Freeze Mage. It might be good for Freeze Mage. I mean, Freeze Mage doesn't really want to play one off card, so you don't really want to do all this crap from you're gonna cut that you have only one card of each deck, each card. But the benefit from in Freeze Mage is you draw so much. And you want to take care of your health still. You don't have to play in Healbot anymore. And if you play this card over in Healbot, for example, how will that be? Of course, like you are not gonna play the one-off cards. You're still gonna play a lot of. You will still play double Frostball, double Fireball, double Doomsayer, double Frost Nova, blah 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 blah. But I mean, you don't. It is probably not on turn 6 play. It's more on turn 10 play, maybe even later, where you just recover all your health and you just get more time. Yeah, I really like this card. I think this is a card I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try this card out. I'm gonna play it also in my Freeze Mage probably. I think this card might be super good for Freeze Mage. And for Paladin. Are there other decks that really can... like this is a card where you can make your deck around. This card is so powerful in his Battlecry that if you make a deck around it, you can really benefit insane from it. So this card might from himself might make other decks really valuable. So yeah, I really love this card actually. I love it. Fatigue Warrior. Yeah, it might also be super good in Fatigue Warrior, actually. I can see it benefiting super well from in Fatigue Warrior. Sir Finley Murloc. Okay. 1 mana, 1/3 Murloc. I mean, for a Murloc, Murlocs always have the worst stats possible. For a Murloc, these stats are insane. They are the dream. 1 mana, 1/3 is pretty good. It's like mana versus stats. I mean, I have never seen... I don't think there is any Murloc that has better stats from himself than this one, almost. Battlecry, discover a new hero power. A basic hero power. And it is a legendary, so it's always a one-off. But I think this card can be pretty good in a Murloc deck. And the good thing is, like, Murlocs always had to play in Warlock decks. Because Warlock had the hero power where you could get more cards. And because Murlocs are so cheap, you don't have any card draw. And I think, and the Shaman has really good Murlocs from himself. So, and Paladin has, Paladin not really. But I mean, this card in Shaman might be super good. You can also get away from the crappy Shaman hero power. You can just say, ha, no useless totems. I'm gonna get that Hunter hero power and I'm just gonna deal some damage. Or you take the Warlock hero power, you get a card that is really good in Murloc decks. I really like this card, man. This card is super good for Murlocs. And how, like, what is the worst case that can happen if you are not even playing a Murloc deck? Like, let's say we play it in Shaman. And we just play it as a 1 mana 1/3 and we get a good hero power. I think this card is... I don't know if it's strong enough to be played in a not Murloc deck, but it's already super close to being not played in a Murloc deck. And in a Murloc deck, this will always be a playable card. The problem is it gonna make the Murloc strong enough? That is the... That's the hardest thing. it might not be strong enough for. I don't know if it's gonna make like the last step for the Murlocs where it's gonna be super good. So, but yeah, design of the card super cool, super cool. Yeah, right. 1 mana, 1/1. Relicry Seeker Battlecry. If you have 6 other minions, gain +4/+4. So what you basically want to do is you play Implosion. You roll full. You have 1 other minion on the board, and then it is gonna be good. But I mean, why won't you play this? If you have 6 minions on board, your board is to be fucking you full, and then this card gets +4/+4. If you have 6 minions on board, you win anyways. Nah, this card cannot. This card is so bad. This card is so bad. You need to have like, but there is almost no way you can have 6 minions on board, and this has to be like the last minion, the 7th minion. I mean, with Zoo it sometimes happens, but when it happens, you win normally already. Like 80% of the games, when you have 6 minions on board, you probably win already. So yeah, compare it with the Sea Giant, guys. You guys are right. Compare it with the Sea Giant. And that card is also gonna be super cheap when you have 6 mana on board. And now we have an 5/5, and otherwise we have an 8/8. Yeah, I don't know. This card cannot be good. I like the card. Like I like these totally cards that like there are no really designs of. But this card cannot be good enough. It's not gonna make it. It's people will try it, then they realize it's gonna be super bad. 1 mana Raven Eat All. It's a Druid card. Choose one, discover a minion or discover a spell. So you pay 1 mana for the discover mechanic. Is that what Blizzard tries? Like discover mechanic being worth 1 mana? Like it's a pretty thing you have to consider. If they think if Blizzard tries to make the discover being worth 1 mana, then the thing that you can get out of the discover shall be worth more than the 1 mana you pay for. Ooh, I don't know if that's true. Ooh, I mean, the way I like this card is if you can get it in the late game, you have no much cards left. Like it's pretty likely that you can get like a last burst spell, for example, Fireball, Pyroblast, or that you get a good minion on board. But you play it early, you make sure you get a 2-drop. The problem with Discover a spell is there are insanely much incredibly terrible spells. So I don't think the Discover and spell is, instead of being really late in the game, it's gonna be powerful. You just don't know what you get. Like it's too inconsistent which spell you're gonna get. Like sometimes you just have like, I don't know, a useless secret, a useless heal card, and you get a word like a Totening Might or a word spell that doesn't make any sense for you. With Discover a Minion, it's gonna be more consistent overall. Like Discover a spell, it might have these rare situations where it's gonna be insanely good, but it will be more often that it's just gonna be insanely bad, I think. For the Discover a Minion, it's probably gonna be good. Oh, you get only Druid spells from this card. Why do you only get Druid spells from this card? If you can only get... oh, I didn't know that. If you can only get Druid spells from this card, and only then... Well, then you get like, you can get combo pieces, you can get buff cards like Mark of the Wild, or the... Yeah, Dark Whisper, Swipe, Rev, Moonfire, Innervate, Wild Growth. Druid has some decent, like Druid, Healing Touch. Okay, well, if you can only get Druid cards, that really limits the card actually. I think that's worse for it. If you can only get Druid spells. Because Druid spells from themselves are not gonna be Insane. Yeah, I think this card is. I mean, there might be some way where this card is going to be worked, but I don't know if you really want to pay 1 mana for a card that you have to rely on being good. Yeah, the Discover, okay, that's something I didn't clarify, but Discover seems to be you always get like neutral or class cards from your own class, okay. Um. Like, you have 3 options, so you will always get a good spell. It's almost not possible that you get a bad spell. For 1 mana, you get an... But what are you looking for? Like, oh, you play this and you get a swipe. I mean, if you have 3 options, it's almost impossible that you don't get a good one out of it, right? Like, you can have like these rare situations where you have like a Moonfire and Wild Growth late in the game and something else, but with Wild Growth you cancel Cycle. I mean, it's not gonna be... I really have to think more about the Discover mechanic, how good it's gonna be. But if you can discover a spell from the Druid... Like, you're not gonna cut spells for it, because they will already be in the deck. I mean, the card is probably gonna be decent. It's really hard for me to evaluate this card, actually. Because it's so cheap... But there are so many situations that can happen. It really relies on how the board state is. Okay, well, we can look at that. If the board state is you are behind, what do you want to get? Like, there are some spells that you can get, like a Swipe, Starfall, the 6 mana where everything dies. But there are also like a lot of like Recycle, Moonfire, like they are pretty crap. So if you are behind... This card is okay. This card is okay to be good if you are behind. If you are ahead, what are you looking for? You're looking for damage because you want to snowball your board. You get a Force of Nature. You get an Savage Roar and Swipe. Like, but you can also get like Healing Touch, or you get buff cards, and buff cards are of course good. I think if you are behind, this card is mad to okay. If you are ahead, you don't really need him, but then he's also okay. The card might be okay. The card might be okay, now I'm thinking more out of it. It's really hard for me to evaluate this card. But yeah, let's go to the next one. I think this card is okay, guys. This card needs playtesting. This card people might say this card is super bad, and then they realize it's actually not that bad. But it might also, people might overrate this card. I don't know how we look at this card yet. Yeah, let's not talk much about this card. Pit Snake, 1 mana 2/1. Destroy any minion damaged by this minion. So this is just a suicidal snake. If it's gonna... Because if you attack with this card, it dies already from himself because it has 1 HP. And it is so bad. 1 mana 2/1. Like, it doesn't have stealth or something. It just dies to a hero power. If you look at the 1 mana 2/1 cards that are being played, they are known being played. Except from like Lepronome, because it's like so good in smart decks, or Abusive because it gives a buff, or maybe Deckhand because it has charge. And this card, 1 mana 2/1, yeah, it destroys any minion damaged by this minion. So you want to play it more in the late game into big threats. But why would you play this over Patient Assassin? Patient Assassin is a 1 mana 1/1, and it has stealth, so you play it in the late game, people can hopefully not kill it, and it trades with a big minion. This card, yeah, dies to a hero power, dies to nothing, doesn't do anything. And a card like this doesn't work at turn 1. You don't play this at turn 1, they play a Mad Scientist, or maybe a 1-drop or whatever. Oh hey, we can trade. Yeah, it destroys it anyways already. This card is super bad. Let's move. So we have Naga Sea Witch. Your cards cost 5. Your cards cost 5. I was already thinking my opponent's cards cost 5 also, and then it might have like some weird funny things. This card is super bad, right? 5 mana 5/5. So stats wise, it's whatever. It's decent. It's like low tap stats, but with another effect. Low tap effect is super good. So the effect has to be super good to be being played for 5 mana 5/5. Your cards cost 5. I mean, why the fuck will that benefit you? Your cards cost 5. So you want to be like really being a ramp druid, but I mean, you play this at turn 5. You go to turn 6, and meanwhile your 6 drop costs only 5. I don't care. I will play it for 6 mana anyways. This card cannot be good, right? I don't see like any situation where this card is gonna benefit in any like if this will work on your opponent, it might be super good. Like removal spells, they are all gonna be super they all gonna cost a lot. But it doesn't work on your opponent. It only works for yourself. So you need to have a deck where your curve is over 5 mana, where it might be decent. That you play like a 9 or a 10 drop at turn 6. Like, I think that's what you want to try, right? With this card, you play a 9 or a 10 drop at turn 6. That's what you try. Nah, this card is not gonna be good. Like, there is only one way this card works well. And the card is also 5 mana 5/5. Probably not gonna survive if people find a deck where it's gonna be super good. But you play like, because it's so uncurved, like 6 drops are already being played next turn anyways. The benefit from 7 drop is not enough for this card to being played. So you really need to have 8, 9 or 10 drops that you want to play it around. I mean, I mean, there might be some situations, like in a really expensive dragon deck, with Ragnaros, Ysera, like that's what you want to get, right, after this card. You want to play Rag, you want to play Ysera. 5 mana 5/5, I mean, it's not easy to kill, it's still 5 mana 5/5. But won't you really kill it when you see this card? I would probably kill it actually. Because I'm only thinking, yeah, people only play this card if they have like a really high curve deck. Then you can consider playing this card. It might be a threat, but this is really gonna be a big threat that you have to kill. Like, I would always want to kill this, because I don't trust this card. I think there is like the... when you face this card, what will mostly happen, like 1 out of 100 cases, one guy plays this card. So what I'm thinking when I see this card is people have like an insane curve. They have like 9 drops, they want to play in Ysera, they want to play in Rag. So, just with that knowledge, it might be good. Like, it might be a good random ladder deck where people don't know your deck list. If you play it in tournaments, people know your deck list after some time. And then it's gonna hurt you, because they exactly know what you wanna play after this, and then they can consider if you have to clear it or not. 5 mana 5/5. I mean, the 5 slot is always like considered being the weakest slot. There's not like an overpowered creature at 5 mana. So yeah, I can see it. Like, if there is like a mana cost where you can consider new cards coming in, it is the 5 slot. So I don't want to point this card out. There might be like, but you have to make your deck around this. So you're probably gonna make like, it probably doesn't really fit in any deck, maybe besides Warrior, where you're gonna play this card already. I think this card will be played because people gonna try it a lot. I don't know if it's gonna be good enough. Hard to say yet. Okay, guys. The first thing we look at, if we see a 7 mana card, the first thing we look at, we consider Dr. Boom. If a 7 drop wants to be good, it has to be as good as Dr. Boom to being played. Because I see in 7 mana a 7/7 card. So if this card has an effect that is worse than Boom, it's not gonna be played. At the end of your turn, summon a 1/1 Scarab with Taunt. Cool. I know a card that costs 7 mana 7/7, and you get 2 Boom bots that can just destroy your opponent. I mean, why would you play this card over Boom? Okay, That's the first thing. It's never gonna be as good as Boom. Okay. Yeah, poor War Golem. Yeah. Poor War Golem. 7 mana, 7/7. Overpower creep. Yeah, poor War Golem. War Golem has a hard time lately, man. At the end of your turn, summon a 1/1 Scarab with Taunt. So it's like an Hogger effect. So if you compare it with Hogger, where this is 6 mana 4/4, you get a 7 mana 7/7, what is way better if there is no BGH, of course. But you get only a 1/1 Scarab with Taunt, so the effect is not being so good. But it's way better than Hogger, right? I mean, for 1 mana, you get 3/3 instead better. You get a 1/1. I mean, this card is actually not bad. It's not bad. It is a warrior card, so how does this fit in warrior? Warrior has already so many good expensive cards in their decks, man. Oh, warrior has already... I don't know if it can even fit in a warrior, man. It's... Hmm. 7 mana, 7/7, 1. Nah. Like, Hogger is... I mean, Hogger is not bad. It's considered being played, so... It's gonna be good for Arena for sure. I mean, holy shit. 7 mana, 7/7 with this effect. Warrior has already pretty poor Arena class cards, so in Warrior Arena, this card is gonna be really strong. But nah, for Constructed, this card is not gonna make it. I cannot see this card. First, Boom is so much better. 2, Warrior deck plays already with a lot of expensive cards that just have more powerful effects than a 7 mana with 7/7. Oh, and we get a 1/1 out of it. The card's not good enough. Okay, and this is a card I am actually kind of hyped for because it's a 3-drop for a Druid. And if there was any weak spot in a Druid deck, it was the 3 mana slot. We always played like Shades because Shades were good. You play them early with Innovate and then it's really good. But the thing, like Druid didn't really, like we have the, what is the name of the card? The 2/5 and the 5/2, Druid of the Flame. Like that card is decent, but okay, let's read the card. 3 mana 3/2. So we pay 1 mana too much for our card. If we don't read the Deathrattle, we pay 1 mana too much for this card. And even a bit more, I think, because 2 drops that are 3/2 are not being played much. But then the Deathrattle, summon a random 1-cost minion. So it is kinda of a Shredder. It is a Shredder where it is like 1 mana less and you get a 1 less mana creature. I think that is like not as good as Shredder, because 2 drops are way better than 1 drops. But it's almost being the same actually. I don't think this card is gonna be much worse than Shredder. This is gonna be such a good card, man. Holy shit. And Deathrattle is so good instead of Battlecry here. Like, this card is gonna be played in Druids. I can promise you guys, this card is it? It's better than Shade, right? The only thing is it trades a bit poorly. Like, this card is not gonna trade well. And Shredder trades insane. This card trades a bit worse. But you play it 1 cost earlier. It's also gonna be really good in more mid-range aggro druids. So you play this and then you play Shredder. Holy shit, that's some Deathrattle. So many Deathrattles. I mean, I don't think it's gonna be like maybe we have to compare it with Harvest Golem, and then I don't consider Harvest Golem being super good, because it's like a 2/3, and you get yeah, and then you get a 1, and then you get a 2/1 out of it, and this is kind of the same. You play 3/2. Yeah, I have to rethink this card a bit. I was more thinking the Shredder way, and then it shall be good, but it trades super poorly. And 1-drops are really poor too, because they have normally 1 health or 1 attack. 1-drops are average 2/1 or 1/2, so Yeah, I actually think this card. So yeah, if you compare it to Harvest Golem, the 3/2 stats over the 2/3, how does that do? I would say for a 3 mana, that's actually not. That's actually fine. Because 2/3 trades really bad into 3 drops and 4 drops. 3/2 trades a bit better. It gets killed but it gets killed also easily. Then you have like the random 1 drop. Like the thing of the why this card is better than Harvest Golem is the random 1 drop. Your opponent doesn't know what comes out. Out of the Harvest Golem, they know there comes in 2/1. We're gonna kill it if we can handle the 2/1. If we cannot handle the 2/1, we don't kill it. Easy. For this card, it's a bit harder because yeah, there might be the situation where there comes out in 1/2 or on 1/3, like a mana room. There might be getting that overload card from the shaman, the 3/1 with Wind Fury. Like that's probably the best 1 drop, right? The 3/1 with Wind Fury. So this card is going to be better than Harvest Golem just because the random effect that people don't know what comes out of it, and of the miracle effect where sometimes something insane comes out. So it's better than Harvest Golem. But it's worse than Shredder. Is it how this card is really hard to compare with Shade because the effect is so much difference. Like I think this card is gonna be good enough for Druid to being played over Shade actually. Especially in the more like there are also like the aggro druids now. Like I'm always considering the mid-range combo druids, but in aggro druids, this card is gonna be so good, eh? Holy shit! Like they play already. That card is gonna be super good in aggro druids. Yeah, I think this card is gonna be played. This card is. I'm not sure if it's gonna make in every constructed deck. Like also like it's the same as Shredder. Shredder came out and people thought, oh, it's a good card, good 4-drop, pretty nice. But nobody knew that it will be so strong. I think that's kind of the same with this. Like people consider it maybe not being super good, but this card is better than you think. This card's way better than you think. It's so hard to handle this card. I think. It's not gonna be as good as Shredder. Shredder is better. It's gonna be better than Harvest Golem. I think people can play this in Druid. I think you can replace this over Shade. Yeah, can you replace it over Shade? I actually don't know. In aggro Druid this, and there's also the thing with Beast Druid now coming up. There's also the thing, but that doesn't probably not matter much. I think this card's gonna be okay. I think this card's gonna be super. It's gonna be good. Okay. 2 mana 1/2. Okay, so when we first see this card, it's super bad stats. 2 mana 1/2. You don't even play on one. You don't even play on 1 mana 1/2. Of course, it's a priest where you don't even wanna play 1-drops. But then Battlecry, discover a Deathrattle card. Oh, that's. So what do you want? You play this card at 2. You get discover and Deathrattle card. You get Dark Cultist. You play it on 3. Like that's like the curve example. But you can also get like Sylvanas. You can get like Sneed, Tyrion. The battle card is these stats are so bad, right? It's like an old school Novik Engineer kind of, because you had like the 2 mana Novik Engineer 1/2 drawn card. Now it's kind of the same. 2 mana 1/2. You discover a card, what is almost the same as draw. I still think the discover is worse than draw actually, because with draw you just draw a card out of your deck, and the card out of your deck is better than a discover card. Otherwise, you shall play the card from the discover. Like there is a reason you put these cards in your deck, because you consider these cards being good in your deck. And with the discover, you still have like the random effect, and you hope these cards gonna be good enough as the cards you play in your deck. So, Yeah. Oh yeah. So of course it's like the priest card that you're gonna get. It has to be class cards, so it's gonna be class or neutral cards. Um, so you get like Dark Cultist, Sylvanas, Shredder, um, Dark Cultist. Like that's what you want, that's what you get. So I actually think this card's pretty okay. This card's pretty decent. It's really hard for me to evaluate because I think if this card was not a priest card, it would be better. I don't know if like priest cannot really get much benefit from. Well, some Deathrattle cards are super sticky. Yeah. I mean, if you can get a super good one, but it really has to go like for a long game plan, then this card might be good. Yeah, I mean, this card might be decent. The card might work out. It's hard to evaluate. Like I'm looking at all the discover cards, and for me, it's really hard to evaluate the discover mechanic. I just don't know much how the discover mechanic will benefit you. Like the discover mechanic is good in the long term plan, but I'm still worried about the discover mechanic because at how the meta is now, decks are not really going to fatigue much. Um, so like getting a card that is not in your deck, like I don't know if it's gonna be really better than drawing a card at all. I don't know. I don't think so actually. Not yet. Not yet. The meta might change and this might be way better. But it's really hard for me to evaluate this card. Like an old school Novik Engineer was pretty good, but it was played in only Freeze Mage, right? Where like the old school Novik Engineer was played in Freeze Mage, and nah, it was played in a lot of decks, but it was actually played in like 3 or 4 different classes. But the thing with the old school Novik Engineer was they were like not like the new like there came so many new cards out after it, and all these new cards are so powerful. Like after Next came out, I don't think anybody really wanted to play Novik Engineer anymore, and it might be okay-ish, but I think it's gonna be a bit too weak to being played. But this card has potential. It has potential. Jungle Moonkin. Both players have spell damage +2. Yeah, that's bad. That's bad. 4 mana 4/4 is bad stats wise. 4 mana 5/4s are not even being played. 4 mana 3/5s are normally not being played, and besides some decks where the effect is really powerful and it's way worse than a Shredder. So we have to look at the what the card says. Both players have spell damage +2. So you really want to make a spell damage druid deck, like an old school spell damage druid deck. Nah, this card's not good. This card's not good. It's also like you don't want to play it at turn 4 because your opponent has the spell damage first. So it's a card that you want to play like really late, like turn 8, and then you like turn 8 discard swipe. Turn 6 discard with a breath. Like that's like the dream or something. I think that's how you will have to read this card. Nah, this card cannot make it. Because it's like you have to play it really late in the game and then you have to do it with spells. Like there are some dream situations with discard swipe, discard and then you rev, a moonfire for 3, woohoo. But I mean your opponent is also gonna benefit from it. I will play Freeze Mage and I will love and I'm just gonna play all my cards and I meanwhile kill you from 30 HP. I mean, this card cannot make it. There is no way this card can make it. Right? Nah. This card cannot make it. I think. I think it's too weak for this card to make it. Right? Yeah, Murloc. Murloc. 0 mana, 1/1 Murloc. The power creep over the Wisp, by the way. I mean, why would you not play a Murloc over a Wisp? Oh, there is the hungry chicken. The hungry crab that can eat Murlocs. Man, if the hungry crab is gonna make it back in the meta, that would be so cool. But yeah, let's go serious. The Murloc Tinifin, 0 mana, 1/1. I mean, if you wanna go for like full Murloc, why not play this card? You go YOLO anyways, right? But it's a 0 mana, 1/1. Like this 0 mana, 1/1 is so bad. 0 mana, 1/1 is really, really bad, right? Nah. I don't think this card can make it. If you play it in a Murloc, like you cannot read this card without you cannot read this card without the Murloc effect. Like you only play this card in Murlocs. And where do you play Murlocs? You play it in Warlock or maybe in a new Shaman. Like if the Murlocs are really gonna like make a comeback, then this card might be being played. But like, why would you not play it in a Murloc deck? Why would you not play it in a Murloc deck? Like that's the thing. So yeah, this card might work in Murloc decks. There are not many Murloc decks out. But I mean, maybe that, like, I can see Murlocs making a comeback. Like the 1 mana 1/3 card that you can choose your hero power. Like that card is so good. Like that card is gonna be super good. So yeah, but with that effect, I can see it working in a Murloc deck. I think this card this card is strong enough to probably make it into Murloc decks. Yeah, let's go to the next card. Oh, I really like this design, by the way. Paladin card, Keeper of Uldaman. It's a 4 mana 3/4 card. So we first always look at the stats. 4 mana 3/4. You pay 1 mana too much for this card. An average 3-drop is 3/4. I mean, 3/4 is pretty okay for a 3-drop. So we pay 1 mana too much. What do we get for that paying 1 mana too much? We get a Battlecry, set a minion's attack and health to 3 HP. So you can choose your minion, it's not a random effect. You can choose your minion and it will be in 3/3. You can do this on your own minions, you can do this on your opponent's minions. So if you do it on yourself, you should compare it kind of with a Houndmaster. It's not totally true, because the way the Houndmaster works is you get +2/+2, and that is how this card works on your dude. It's like if you have a dude on the board, like a 1/1 hero power, like you go Muster of Battle into this, and you go Muster of Battle, you play this, and one of your dudes will be 3/3. Super good. I think that's already good enough to be that this card can being played. If you play it in on your opponent, like your opponent plays a giant, the giant is going to be in 3/3. That's good. It's okay, it's not insane, but it's good. So yeah, I mean, I think this card is going to be super strong also. Like this card has to be super strong. Oh, I went, sorry. I think this card is going to be strong enough to make it. 4 mana 3/3. Yeah. I think this card is gonna be good enough. Oh yeah, you can do this on a Nerubian egg. Holy shit. So, do it on a Nerubian egg. Holy shit, you make a Nerubian egg and play Nerubian egg turn 2, coin this out, and your Nerubian egg is a 3/3. Holy shit. Yeah, and like how more aggro your Paladin deck is, how better this card gets. How more Deathrattle you play, how better this card gets. Like this is super good on a Haunted Creeper too. So I think this is like a really good card for the more aggro secret Paladins. Yeah, I think this card is super good, man. This card's super good. Like, oh my god. This on Deathrattle minions. Like, Deathrattle minions are... You don't kill them normally. Yeah, it gets maybe weak to silence, but that doesn't matter. Played it like a 4 mana 3/4. For 1 mana, for this card is being like stats wise you pay 1 mana too much, but the effect that it gives is worth way more than 1 mana. Like, I can read this card sometimes by 1 mana get +2/+2, and that's alright. And it's in Battlecry, it's not in Deathrattle. And Battlecry is like you get +2/+2 with charge, because you can use this +2/+2 as a charge effect. Yeah, this card is going to be really good, and how more aggro your paladin is, how better this card will be. This card might be even better than... Like, this card is better than Houndmaster, right? Because Houndmaster needs some beast. You can play this card on any card you want, on Deathrattle cards, on dudes, or on your opponent. Like, this card is so good, man. This card is so good. Like, the worst case, this card is an Houndmaster, kind of. Like, there are some rare situations where you don't have 1/1s, and then you cannot buff as much as the Houndmaster does. But in Paladin, man, it's in Paladin. This card is good. This card is so good, right? Yeah, this card is super good, guys. You're gonna see this card. I will play it. I will play it. I think this card is strong enough to play maybe even twice in Paladin. You're gonna cut Quartermaster for this card, because then you wanna use this on dudes too. So you're not gonna play 2 of these cards and 2 Quartermasters. You're gonna cut at least 1 Quartermaster for this card. The only case where this card is bad is if you don't have a minion. Like, that's the only way, right? You don't have a minion, you cannot use it. Then you use it on your enemy. That's not that good. Then you wait maybe just for when you get him do it. This card is good. This card is good, man. There are really rare situations where this card is under average, but still not terrible. But the effect that the positive effect that this card has for the one that you pay 1 mana more, it's so big. It's so big. Yeah. This card will be in play. I'm not sure what you cut for it. Like, you don't want to play double Quartermaster together with these. You probably don't want to play Murloc Knight even anymore, because this card is a Battlecry. With the Murloc you have to pay 2 mana. This card is being played. You can see this card being played a lot. How more aggro your paladin is, how better this card is, guys. So yeah, this card, man, it's gonna be super strong. Let's move to the next card. Gorilla Bots, a 4 mana 3/4. So if we fast go back to our last card, it has the same stats. 4 mana 3/4. And now we have a mech here. It's an it's a neutral minion mech card. So Battlecry, if you control another mech, discover a mech. So you wanna, this is of course a card we have to consider in Mech Mage, maybe Mech Shaman, but let's consider this card in Mech Mage. If you control another mech, discover a mech. I think discover a mech is really good in mech decks, of course, and not just because of the effect that that you get the mech, but you're gonna get a good mech. Like, you play this and you wanna get a Shredder. You want to get maybe a Sky Golem, maybe you want to just get a Spider Tank. Whatever, you choose your best one that is the best in your curve normally. Or you choose like maybe a Blinktron or maybe a Healbot because you need some health. But normally you just choose the best mech out of this. So we play this in Mech Mage, and it's pretty likely we have a mech on board. And if not, we can always play Clockwork Gnome into this at turn 5. So it's kind of an Azure Drake, right? 4 mana Azure Drake, kind of. Because we draw another card. In mech decks, this card is good. And the funny thing is, in Mech Mage, some Mech Mage decks played 1 Azure Drake. But this card is better than Azure Drake. Because we have, it is a bit relying because we need a mech on the board. But if you don't have any other mech on the board, you lose anyways, right? I don't think a mech mage can win early in the game with no mechs on board. So let's say that the effect works. So we play. It's like an Ezra Drake is 5 mana, 4/4. This card is 4 mana, 3/4. So that's like way better. And we can choose a mech. And yeah, there are these rare situations where you get like the useless mechs. I don't know, like you get an heal bot with 2 others and then it sucks. But 9 out of 10 times this card is gonna give you probably just an okay mech or an insane mech. Like, and with insane mechs is probably like Shredder. So yeah, I think this card's gonna be good in mech decks. This card's of course not good enough as a 4-drop. Because there are not enough mech decks. Like, if you play this together with Shredder, then you have already 2 mechs, including third mech, and how then this card is already decent. I can even see Mechdruid getting a comeback because of this card that played already. Like Mechdruid played already, so is Mechdruid gonna be strong enough because of this card? I think it might be, but the problem with Mechdruid was that it got fell behind. In Mech Shaman, I don't know, man. Mech Shaman is so YOLO. They play like all these burst spells because they don't have enough. So this deck, this card's gonna be super good in Mech Mage, I think. You will see this card in Mech Mage. Yeah, I think it's gonna be played in mech decks. Yeah, it's good enough for mech decks. You have the overpay of 1 mana, what is not as big. You pay, so yeah, you pay 1 mana too much for the stats of this card, but before that you get like normally in draw. Yeah, it's good. It's good in mech decks. It's good in mech decks. So Javelot Scarab, 2 mana 1/1. Battlecry, discover a 3-cost card. So you play this card, you get a 3. Like the design of this card is made to play this on turn 2, and you get a 3-drop. So you probably don't really have to play much 3-drops in a deck to play this card. Really good card in Hobgoblin deck, yeah. But discover a 3-cost card. So yeah, you play this at turn 2 and you get probably one of the better 3-drops in the game. There are, by the way, a lot of sucky 3-drops. Like 3-drops is not like something you want to get normally, because there are a lot of sucky 3-drops too. But I think this playing on turn 2 into a 3-drop, it is a beast. Does that help you? It's just like, compare it to a web spinner in a beast hunter deck. Compare it to maybe an haunted creeper still somehow. I mean, this card is not never gonna survive. It's like 2 mana 1/1. It's gonna be killed super easily. Yeah, you can also get spells from it. Does that matter? Yeah, that makes the card worse because it's less inconsistent. Nah, this card, I don't think this card is good. Like, this cover is so hard to evaluate. Like, normally I'm evaluating these cards always by logic, analyzing stats, analyzing the opinions, and looking what the average is. But with this cover I can't. It's like so many 3-drops, so many 3 mana spells. This card cannot make it. I think it's too it's not it's 2 mana 1/1. In which decks do you want to play in 2 mana 1/1? It's a beast, so you will probably want to play it in Hunter. You discover in 3 cards. You can get Unleash. You can get Kill Command. You can get what is there more on the 3-drop? Animal Companion. I mean, in Hunter this might be pretty good because the 3-drops from Hunter are super good. So yeah, besides Hunter, I don't think this card is going to be played in anything else. And 2 mana 1/1 card draw is okay. Yeah, it's on the weak side, but it's okay. But because it's a beast, because the Hunter has good 3-drops, So it might be good enough for Hunter. It might be good enough for Hunter. But there are already so many good 2-drops in Hunter, man. You have Mad Scientist. You have Haunted Creeper. You have Juggler. You cannot really cut these cards out of it. Nah, I mean it's gonna be close. It's. I don't think it's good enough. I don't think it's good enough. If you play this over one creeper maybe, but then you go until the other way, or if you just put in one other 2-drop in. I mean, people gonna try this deck. It's really hard for me. Really hard for me to evaluate the Hunter cards or evaluate these Discover cards. But if you want to try this card, you shall try it in a Hunter deck for sure, yeah. It might be okayish. It might be okayish in Hunter. I cannot see this card being played in any other class than Hunter. Huge toad. Holy shit, that's a huge toad. Oh, the power creep. Rip blood. The blue, like, why do they design this card? It's like Bloodfin Raptor. Rip Bloodfin Raptor 2015. It's like the same with the power creeps from last set. Like, you have a 2-mana 3/2 and it just a Deathrattle effect. And the Bloodfin Raptor doesn't, so why would you ever play this card? The Bloodfin Raptor anymore. Deathrattle deal 1 damage to a random enemy, so that's like a pretty weak Deathrattle. If you compare it to the Flame Juggler, that's a 2-mana 2/3 with a Battlecry of dealing 1 damage to a random enemy. Flame Juggler is okay. It's a neutral. It is not a beast. This is a beast. So you want to play this in beast decks. The only decks where you play beasts, like where you really benefit from beast, are Hunter and maybe Druid. Like Blizzard really tries to make a Druid also like a good beast class, but at the moment it's still pretty weak. The beasts in like a beast Druid deck. So if you play this one. Yeah, the Flame Juggler is being played in like the more aggro kind of decks, but it's more played in the aggro kind of decks, but it's being played in the aggro decks when the meta is more aggro with 1-drops. This Deathrattle is not good. This Deathrattle is just not good enough, right? And Deathrattle is always weaker than a Battlecry when it deals damage. Like, you play your Battlecry minion whenever you think. There is a Lepronome on the board, you play it. Now there is a Lepronome on board, you play this, and the Lepronome trades into your Toad. So, yeah, it's... if you look at the stats, if you look at just the stats-wise, this card is weaker than Flame Juggler. So, the fact that it is a beast has to be more powerful than the difference between the Deathrattle and the Battlecry and the stats to be played over on Flame Juggler. And that's not good enough. Because I don't think this card is going to be good enough to be played in a Hunter deck. So I think this card is just too weak. Decks have to go really beast heavy to make this card happen. But there is no reason to play a card like this just for the Deathrattle effect. The Deathrattle effect is not good. It's pretty random. I don't even think it's working for you a lot of time, so yeah, it's not gonna make it. I think it's a cool card. It's not bad. It's okay. Good arena card, but not being played in Constructed. Yeah, when I was like, why did this is such a bad card? Holy shit! Like, compare it with like Ragnaros. 8 mana 8/8. Like, it's Ragnaros stats. Battlecry if you control a beast. So you already have to control a beast. You get Taunt. Woohoo! We get Taunt if we have a beast. That's so cool. Yeah, and then you have Rag that deals 8 damage and can just make you an insanely big comeback. Compare it with the Iron Beak Protector or whatever is the name of that Druid Taunt card. 8 mana 8/8 Taunt. Battlecry, if you control a beast, you gain Taunt. So if you have a beast, you get, this card will be an Iron Beak Protector. So you can now, every class can play Iron Beak Protector. That's what they did. They give love to Iron Beak Protector. Everybody can play it now in all the classes, all the decks that they want. Yeah, well, I mean, for Arena, why not? I mean, for Arena, it might be an okay card. But, yeah, this card is... Let's not talk about this card. This card is super bad. Oh, and this card I am super hyped about, guys. I am super hyped about this card. Forgotten Torch. Deal 3 damage, shuffle and Roaring Touch. And that is a 6 damage card into your deck that deals 6 damage. And that is a 3 mana, 6 damage card. This card is gonna be so good in Freeze Mage. This card is insane in Freeze Mage. I thought I thought of like 3 cards before the stream like already. And this was one of them. And this card is gonna be so good in Freeze Mage. This card is not gonna be good in Tempo Mage because the shuffle is not as powerful. Like, okay, you get it in the deck, but it's really hard to draw, and 3 mana, 3 damage is not super powerful. But this is so good for Freeze Mage. I'm not sure what I'm gonna cut for it. But just think of it in Freeze Mage, where you cycle to the end of your deck. You just play this card whenever you can. You play it on a minion to kill it, and you have like a 3 mana Fireball in your deck. You have extra burst in your deck. You shuffle it, so you don't have to cut another card for it to get another Fireball in your deck. Your burst is gonna be more, so you have more reach with your Freeze Mage in the control matchups. So this card is gonna be, I don't know if it's really gonna matter for the Freeze Mage in the aggro matchups, but this card is gonna be super good for you in the control matchups. It's gonna be really good for you against Druid. It's gonna be really good for you against Priest. It's gonna be really good for you against Rogue. Like, that are the 3 cards that make you the matchup for 5 or 10% better. For sure, maybe even more. I'm not sure if I'm gonna cut a card draw for this. I'm not sure if I'm gonna cut a damage spell for this. But this card is so good in Freeze Mage, I think. And I mean, I really know this. You can, I mean, I played so much Freeze Mage, and if I would needed one card to make Freeze Mage better in control matchups, I mean, this card is gonna hurt you a bit in the aggro matchups probably, because you have another damage spell that you don't really want. But this card is gonna make you the control matchup so much better. Oh, I'm so happy with this card, man. I'm so happy. Like, yeah, there are 2 possibilities you can go. First possibility, you cut a damage card out of your deck to still have like a really